Today's daf is daf Tes. We are going to begin on the bottom of the Ches on the base. Hahu garvet havekom mezabin. There was a certain man. He was selling. What was he selling? Chumre psach yosa, which is like beads of glass. I say Itzu. There was a woman who came to him. Amra lei said to him, Havli chad sechi. Give me a bead. Give me a string. Amar los. He said to her, Iya avina lech mikadshali. If I'm going to give it to you, are you going to be mikadeshes to me? So Amar Allah, she said to him, Hava mi hava. Give. When Rav Chama says, Kol hava ma hava lav klumi. Any use of the expression give is nothing. Although she said give, she didn't agree to the Tanai, and she was just like mocking him and had no kavanah to actually become mikudeshes. Second story, the Gemara says, there was a certain man who was drinking wine in the store. Also, a certain woman came. Omar Lo said to him, Havili chad kosa, give me a cup of wine. Omar Le, so he said to her, Yavina lech mikashali, if I give it to you, will you be mikudeshes? Omar Le, she said, Ashkuya, give to drink. Omar Rav Chama says, Kol Ashkuya, anybody who says, give it to me to drink, it basically, a double expression is lav klumhi, means nothing, and she had no kavanah to be mikudeshes to him. Third story, the Gemara says, Ahu garad have a kashodi tamra v'dikla. There was a man who was picking dates from a date tree. Also, there was a woman who came, and Omar Lei said to him, Shtili tati, throw me two. Omar La, so he said to her, Ishadina lach mekachali, if I'm going to throw it to you, will you be mikudeshes to me? Omar Lei, shti mishti, so she said to him, throw. Omar Zvid said, Kol shti mishti, anybody who uses the expression throw, lav klum means nothing. They asked the Shaila, Hav ashki ushti. What if somebody used the expression, she said to him, give to drink or throw, but she didn't use the repetition. So, do I say when they use the straightforward statement, it's mashma that she actually meant him to give it to her in accordance with this condition, or does she not agree to the condition at all? Ravina Mikudeshes of Sambar Anaktomar Tagat the Malki says, literally it means by the, it's like a form of a shua, by the king's crown. She's not Mekudeshes. The Hilchas and the halacha is Eini Mekudeshes, she's not Mekudeshes. The Hilchas of the Gemara says Shirei Leitzich Shema. The halacha is that silk garments that are worth more than a pruta does not need to have an appraisal. The Hilchas of Rabbi S. The halacha is that we learned yesterday. Opinion of Rabbi S. that if a man promised a woman 100 dinners and it was Mekadesh as Kidushin money, and gave her only a dinner, she is Mekudeshes. And the third thing is V'ilchas Kadav Amar Nachman, that if he promised 100 dinners and gave her only a mashkin, that is not a valid Kidushin. Tanra Bada, we looked at a Brisa B'Shtar said, what is the Kidushin performed with a document? If he wrote the following for the girls, for the young woman's father on a paper of, let's say, earthenware, even though the earthenware is less than a Shava Pruta, and he wrote, Bitcha Mekudeshes Li, your daughter is Mekudeshes to me, Bitcha Meireses Li, your daughter is Meireses Li, Bitcha Li into, your daughter to me as his wife. So the halacha is Mekudeshes, she is Mekudeshes. There's no requirement for the paper or the earthenware to be worth one pruta, as she's not Mekudeshes to the value of the paper or earthenware. Maskalot is the Bar Mamel, so the Bar Mamel says, but this document is not comparable to a bill of sale. Also, there in the case of the bill of sale, the seller is the one who writes to the buyer, I feel this sold to you. Here the husband writes, your daughter is Mekudeshes to me. There in the case of the sale, the formulation of the document is taken from the context of the pasuk, and Hasam and V'hacham Yana Dekra. And also here, in the case of the Kidushin, also the document, the formulation is likewise taken from the context of the pasuk. Hasam Ksiv there, in regards to this sale, it says Machar Machuzase, and sells the Achuzase. In other words, Mechat Rachmana, that the Torah renders the transaction dependent on the seller. Ksiv over here, it says Ki Yikach, if a man takes a woman, which means Bal Tal Rachmana, that the Eibishter depends, the Kidushin dependent on the husband. So the Gemara asks, Hasam not mixed, so this Bakesiv Yikla, there in the case of the sales also says, man shall buy fields for money, which is mashma that the matter depends upon the buyer. So the Gemara says, Kri be yakno, if the read, shall sell. So my time at Kari be yakno, why are you saying yakno shouldn't ksivu machar? Hachanami say the same thing. Kri Bei Ki Yakach. Read over here, as it's written, Ki Yakach, when he is given, as the pasuk says, the Chesiv is speaking aside to Ish Hazeh. Rather, there's no proof from the psukim of these rulings, as halacha is a halacha mentioned Sinai, or Hasam Nami Ksiv. It also says that I took the deed of purchase, which is mash for that is the seller who writes the document. Omer Rav Nachman. Excuse me. Omer Rav Nachman. Kosalani Yariel Acher Self Bishim Mishav Pruta. He wrote the following for him on paper or earthenware, despite the fact that the paper or earthenware is not worth a pruta, whether it's doesn't matter through the father or through her. She is the consent of her father, and this is halacha provided that she has not yet reached her. She was not a big heiress before her father alone has the authority to, before which the father has authority to mekadesh her. If he wrote for her on a paper or the even if it's not a shabruta, is atma kadeshes li, or hariat li into hariat mereses, kadeshes ben idea avia, whether it's through ben avia, ben idea asma midaita vusha bagno. This halacha provided that she has reached her majority and is under her own authority. But he asks with regards to the document of Kidushin that was written not for the sake of the woman. So what's the halacha? So havayis that sees makshinan. Do we say that the halacha of the moza becoming mekudeshes to the halachas of the moza leaving a marriage, a divorce? In other words, ma yitzia b'inyan lishma. Just like in regards to yitzia, we require the document of leaving. In other words, the Gittin must be written specifically lishma, havaya bin lishma, so to require the documents of becoming lishma oidilma, or havayis ladade makshinan, or perhaps we say the different modes of becoming mekudeshes to each other and say ma'avay the kesel bin lishma, just as we do not require that becoming mekudeshes with money must be carried out with coins minted for her sake. Havay the shtanam bin lishma, so too we do not require that becoming mekudeshes. The document must be with the document written for the sake. When it says Boshet the boy, other pashta, after he raised the question, he resolved and said, Havaya litzia makshinan. We say that Havaya litzia is damar krav. That's a mahesa. It shows that the halacha of Mekudeshes, of Kidushin, documents are learned from Gidin. Therefore, it has to be written lishma. Etmar, it was stated about Halikas Amarim. They disagree with regards to the following issue. If a man wrote a document of Kiddushin for her sake, but without her consent, she did not know at the time that they were writing it, but accepted afterwards. They both say Mekudeshes. The Papa should have Mekudeshes. I'll say my reasoning, I'll say that his reasoning and my reasoning. I'll state the reasoning. That says that she departs and she becomes Namakish Avaylitzia. Compare Avaylitzia, Manitzia, the Shema Shalem Daite. Just like in regards to Kiddushin, just like in regards to Gittin, leaving a marriage must be written for her own sake, but can be written without her consent. So in regards to Kiddushin, the same thing. And he says, just like in regards to the Yitzia, you need to have the consent of the one transferring it, the man, as he divorces and transfers authority to the woman herself, for herself. Also need das makna. Meisvei, so asks a shayla from the following Mishnah, and this is against the opinion that she is mekudeshes, so the document was written without her consent. In case of starting in the Suyan Elo Midashneim, one writes documents of Kiddushin and marriage only with the consent of both the man and the woman. My love starting in the Suyan Mamish must be, the Mishnah is referring to actual documents of Kiddushin and marriage, which is mentioned that the document must be written with the woman's consent. The Gemara says, we're talking about documents of Tanaim, which contain the details of the dowry. Who said, the father says how much you're going to give to your son, how much are you giving to your daughter, so, and then then they get up and become betrothed. So they acquire everything that was promised. These are the matters that are required through speech, and do not require an act of kinyan. The documents of Kidushin mentioned here that require the woman's consent are those which contain this type of monetary obligation, not actual documents. The Gemara says, "Ubibiya." In regards to bibiya, I mean, I'll learn from where do we derive this? It says married woman. It teaches that it becomes her husband by means of biya. This was taught that the top of Rabbi Danas is unacceptable. Uba Allah, it says Uba Allah, teaches us that she becomes acquired through biya. When it says Imahasam, if so, I would think that first you have to Kidushin then boil. Mashmallah, you don't. Maskada Baba Varmamal, you can't not Amurasa, the Rahman was Kadesh, you never find the case of not Amurasa. When it says either Akdish, I expect either Akdish Father Bal Bula, if this is referring to the case when he was Makadesh or with money, then they had relations with her. So then, Lav, either actually by Lav Klumi. Sorry, again. Either Akdish Father Bal Buli, she's a bullet. Either Akdish Play Bal Lav Klumi. And if it's referring to a case where he was Makadesh her with money and did not engage in relations with her, this is nothing as the Kidushin has not been completed. So the says, we're talking about a case where he's Makadesh with money, and then the Kidushin man had relations with her in a not a typical way. Despite the fact that she's still a basula, the Kidushin has taken effect by means of this type of biya. So she's no longer considered a psula with regards to the halacha of Kidushin, of being Mikadosh a young woman. So when it says, what's the machlek? The Tanya Bola, if 10 men had relations with this, Nairamu or Rasa, Adain Psula, and she's still a psula, and they engaged in Bir Shlei Kadarka. So the halacha is Kulam B'skilum, they all get to the skila. Rabbi Yamir says, Imrani, I say Arishim B'skila, but Kulam B'chenek, the first one gets skila, and the rest one gets chenek. Once the first one has relations with her, she's no longer considered a psula, even if she engaged in you find a situation where a man who engaged in relations with a non-anyone else was punished by stoning, in a case where he was Makadosh with a document. Everyone agrees that since a document removes a woman from her husband, giving her mafness, she completely brings her into the state of Kidushin. What does he do? This girl is Mikadesh's Rabbi, but not Amayavri. So that definitely takes a Yavama. I would think I learned Kavachim from Yavama. And explain my Yavama Shinikas because of Yavama is not canon because of however Nikas Babia, Zushnikas because of Nikas Babia. The Mar says Mali Yavama, how can compare the Yavama? Yavama is a mallet standing waiting for the Yavam. Rather, so that just like in regards to the acheres, the maid servant, the master marriage, so the woman that master marriage can be acquired through biyah. We don't say that. So we're asked for every high farm in LA. Where does Rabbi Nasi who learns that the Kidushin can affect through biyah? Where does he know this from? So he says, my ubal with the extra. Hey, I'm going to tell you two things. One can learn from this pasuk that both a woman can be acquired through biyah, and that an ordinary woman can be just through biyah, but a Ibri can have it acquired through biyah. And according to the opinion of Rabbah, who said, Barahina Asberli, if Barahina explained this to me, what are you going to say? Since he uses the pasuk for a different purpose, from where does Rabbah derive that a woman can be Mekadeshas through biyah, and that Ami Ibri cannot be acquired in this manner? So he says, it must be both. Rabbi Abelus Bam over the He teaches us that the husband renders her a psula, even if he has a biyah shalekadarke, and another man renders her a bula with her in this type of manner. Fighting model Misle that of Christa Isfar, does Christa hold, does Rabbi accept this opinion? This proves that the opinion of Rabbi Danasi, even one who is not her husband, can make a woman a bula by engaging in biyah shalekadarko. Zeta, he says, made the knas to kulam neshami. Rabbi Nasi concedes with regard to the fine of a rapist and a seducer that he will pay all of this fine, and they are not exempt primarily because their acts of biyur were not shalei kadarka. So the West is maishna miktala. So why, in what way is it different than the death penalty? With respect to the death penalty, they are punished as though they engaged in biyur with a murasa. And concerning the fine, they pay as though they had relations with a psula. Mar says, the pasuk says, and the man only lay with her shall die, which is mashma that only one man is executed for having relations with a psula no more. What do they do with labadi? What does it mean? Shall both of them die? Which is mashma that this is not the case unless the two of them are equal. Both deserve punishment. But if one of them cannot be punished, in other words, he's a minor, then the others are not executed either. Where does it must be first that one can kind of went through. Second, that only a woman's husband can render her a psula by biyur shel kadarka.